In this video, I'm gonna talk about how to get into the focus state, how to stay there for as long as you intend to, and how to recover your focus when eventually you distract yourself. Hello people, I'm Pedro, I'm a PhD student. Let's talk about focus. Most people seem to think that focus is about discipline, that you have to force yourself to study, to focus on the task that you want to accomplish. But that is not actually true, you know. Focus is much more about being self-aware of your environment and the things that affect you, of the internal and external triggers that affect your mind, and at the same time about being clear of your intention on what you want to focus. Okay, so think about it like this. First, there is the aware state, which is probably your current state, like you are catching all the cues of the environment, catching all the notifications on your phone, catching all the sounds around. But then there is this focus state, that is your desired state, right? The first question, how to get there? Because it's not as easy as some people might think. It's not just a snap of the fingers. You have to actually plan, decide, and make an activity. The best way to start any action is to start with intention, which means that it's important to declare to yourself what is it that you want to do, what is it that you want to accomplish. Setting an intention for what we want to focus on is the most important step. By just saying, I want to study 2 hours today of differential geometry. It is something that might feel irrelevant, but it actually is an important exercise of self-awareness, of understanding what is it that you want to do and giving the first steps into deciding how you will get there. Okay, getting to focus is basically about 2 steps. Okay, so first it is about intention. Be specific, define a place, define a time, visualize yourself doing the task, and you will be more likely to achieve. The second step of getting to focus is this idea of environment design. Environment design is something I think we do tend to forget about. Our aware state, we are taking all these cues of the environment, all this noise, all this mumbling around, people talking to. It's hard to concentrate, it's hard to focus. Environment design is about removing these external triggers from the environment. Of course, not all of them are going to be controllable, but you can try to minimize them as much as possible. One thing I recommend the most is to have a dedicated physical space for working on your focus tasks. Like, I like to choose the library of my university because it's quiet, people are not going to come to me talking, it has a nice view. Actually, just the fact of going to the library takes me into a state of focus, like I prepare myself. There is also this research on how different places make us act differently. Some people might even say that when you enter into a certain environment, it's important to tell yourself, what is it that you're going to do here? Like, be aware of what is your intention by going to that place, by designing that environment. And again, design the environment is not just changing things around. It can be that, but it can be completely changing the place that you are. That's the point. So you can have a quiet place, you minimize interruptions. One thing that we always carry around in all environments is our phones, right? If you can turn it off or turn the notifications off, I like to set up focus modes on my phone. So I have a work mode or a concentration mode that basically only disturbs me if there is an earthquake or something. It's good things to consider, but I think especially think of it as a iterative process. You're not gonna get it right the first time. Try experiment around and see what works for you. Now that you got into focus, how do we actually stay into our desired states? Staying into focus is all about the internal triggers that are gonna show up. You decide to do the task, but then you got hungry, or you got tired, or you got sad, or you got stressed, or you were thinking about the things you have to do that you didn't do yet. And it is hard to manage all those internal triggers. If you did the first step well, especially the part about intention, these internal triggers might not be something to actually bother you. Because if you find meaning, value out of the task, your mind will probably calm down on all those internal triggers because you actually want to be there. Just like when you are watching a movie or playing a game, you don't really, maybe you can get hungry or think about the other things, but they actually don't matter so much, right? Talking about games, one idea that we can take from them is this idea of active engagement. If you make your task fun, it can be much easier. I've made a video a while ago about the study loop: read, process, and write. And one thing that works very well is remind yourself of the study loop and shorten it. If you shorten this process of reading, processing, and writing, and the feedback becomes much quicker, it can become much more interactive, foster curiosity, foster meaning on your task, and make it generally more fun. The less passive the task feels, the more fun it will probably be, and the more fun it is, the higher the chances you will stay in focus without even realizing. As it happens with everyone, we have to get out of the focus state, either by our choice or most probably because our minds will wander away. They will distract themselves, either by external triggers or internal ones. And so the third step is recovering focus. You were there working on your task, and then suddenly you start scrolling on your phone, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I lost focus, I have to go back. We have to go back! But when you lose focus, it's not as easy to get back to. The first step you have to do is acknowledge that. It's realizing that you are distracted. It's acknowledging distraction. And by doing that, don't try to force yourself back into the task. Try to first reestablish the intention, reestablish the value and the meaning, and why is it important for you. Okay? If you force yourself into trying to convince that you have to do that, force willpower, force discipline on it, it might actually burn you out with time. It is always most successful if you do the things because you want to do them. After reestablishing your intention, it is also important to analyze what is the root of the distraction. Try to classify, is it an external trigger or is it an internal trigger? If it's an external trigger, you can actually stop the task, right? But if it's an internal one, what is it that is actually bothering you? Just take a note of what is it that distracted yourself. Taking a note of it might actually be useful later to help you identify the patterns of what is distracting you. And finally, after you assess the situation, re-engage with the task, which just means go back where you stopped. It is important to note, however, that maybe it's not going to work. Maybe you will keep getting distracted over and over again because people have limits and we get tired, and it's time to stop and leave it for tomorrow. Our intention should never be to finish whatever we propose ourselves to do. It should be to take that time and dedicate the most of our energy to it. And if you feel that it's time, take breaks and then you can come back or just stop doing it. Focus requires deliberate practice, okay? It's like a muscle. Keep tensioning and relaxing, and with time it grows stronger. So just like exercise, make a plan and have patience and you will see the results. And if you want to know more about the study loop that I mentioned, I have this video right here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.